Energized show, up the Irish.
Okay, what's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of Energized. Ross, introduce the guest.
We have IMAF coach, head coach of SBG Tullamore, SBG black belt, and Polaris representation for the UK and Ireland is Mr. Kieran Davern. Kieran, how are you doing?
Thanks very much. That's some introduction. Right?
Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. I was hoping to regret.
You know what? I was like, what am I going to say about this guy, right? And the introductions are famous around here, and I was like, geez, this guy's done a lot. He's achieved a lot so far. So like,
that's probably just because I'm old.
No, definitely not.
No, definitely not.
Who was it? I think Jamie Heathsop has like the record, the introduction. We had him on, and like, geez, he scored Troy of the Year in like 2018, something like that. I call that out.
Like Lions tours and everything.
Yeah, unbelievable. But Kieran, you're just straight back from Bulgaria. Tell us a bit about that IMAF experience. Like, what representation from Ireland, especially the under 18s welterweights. I think Jordan Scully's out of SPG Tullamore. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
him and Max Lally in the final against each other, insane. Especially when you consider welterweight's always one of the most stacked divisions. So why don't you start with your own guys first?
Like, yeah, 100%. The tournament. I love the IMAF tournament. It's one of my favorite tournaments to coach at. Like, it literally reminds me of like, you know, what you'd imagine the Olympics to be like for mixed martial arts. I've been like to the adult IMAFs and I've been to, you know, the youth IMAFs and that type of stuff. But it's so professionally ran. Like say the dress code, for example, like say for the officials is either like suit and tie, or it's you know, team tracksuits for coaches and fighters and that type of stuff. But we had two fighters from SBG Tullamore on it. We had Bernie Ward. He's training with me since he's 9 years of age. He's 16 now. He fought at 66. He lost his first fight to a Russian. The Russian beat him in the second round, but did really well. Listened really well. Learned a lot. Didn't have as much training in that over the last while with COVID and that. But I think it's going to make him a better fighter, and I think it's kind of pushed him in the right direction.
Yeah, that's something we want to get into as well. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, Jordan Scully then, he fought at 77 kilos. So obviously the welterweight division. He's been training with me only 4 years. So like he's very good. But he's not good by accident. Like he's like one of the hardest workers like I know, like, you know, period, whether it's an adult or a teen or anything like that. Like he honestly trains like 3 to 4 times a day. Like he came up to me like the week before IMAFs and he said to me, like I was going in to teach a session at 7 o'clock and he looked tired and he came up to me and said, Coach, I'm feeling tired. I might skip this session or whatever. And I said, what did you do today? He said, I did MMA sparring this morning at 9. So I was obviously coached that session. I was there. He said, I did strength and conditioning at 12:30. And then I did kickboxing sparring at 6 o'clock. And I said, go home, you madman, and just take a rest and go watch Netflix or whatever. And then he turned around and he said to me, you know what, I'll get a shower and I'll watch the session. And I said, no, just go home. So I started teaching the session and whatever else. It was a wrestling session or a grappling session. And I turned around, here he is sitting on the floor, showered and changed, just watching the session until the gym closes. So it's
student of the game.
Yeah, he's a student of the game. He's training 4 years, but he's probably put in like 8 years work, if that makes sense. Like I could teach a session in the morning and I could like say, get ready to teach another session in a different room. It could be a grappling session or an MMA session or something like that. And I could come out later on, just say if he wasn't a part of the session, I could come out later on and he'd be sleeping on the couch or he'd be on the couch watching the UFC on the telly or something like that, you know, and then he'd hang around for a little bit and then he'd jump into like maybe a strength and conditioning session and so on. So he you know, his first major competition and he got silver. Like the last competition he did before that was Gamma in Port Arlington. You know what I mean? So if you put that into perspective, like he's literally training 4 years. He did like a few Gamma fights in Port Arlington. He went in, he beat Bahrain by like a unanimous decision. He like mauled the first lad from Bahrain, who was like, you know, one of the favorites. He was a blue belt. He was very good. He was backed by Team KHK and he fought on the Brave undercard and so on. So he had all the credentials to, you know, do well and get to the final. He beat him. He beat Lebanon in 56 seconds by a mounted triangle. Then he beat like a big Czech Republic fighter in the second round by mounted triangle. But the fights weren't even like that close, you know what I mean? And then he obviously went to, or he made it to the final and met Max Lally. Max Lally's training years and he's a great Irish fighter. And, you know, he got the win and he deserved the win. You know, it was his time and it was his day and everything else. So long story short, we were so proud to see two Irish fighters at like 17 and 18 years of age. Well, Max turned 18 after the event. So 17 and 18 years of age, like close out the division, 2 Irish fighters. There was like Russia, there was Ukraine, there was Israel, Kazakhstan, Lebanon, Czech Republic, fill in the blank, USA, the whole lot. And then the 2 Irish lads cleared out either side of the bracket, and then they met in the final. Like, it was unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. That is like so unbelievable. Myself and Ross obviously saw the results of that, and we were just blown away. But you have to tell them, we're not surprised. We're just blown away that there's a lot of pressure on them. Obviously, we were just talking about the training and the build-up. Team Ireland weren't allowed to train together. When you look at the Olympics, everyone's obviously allowed to train together. Myself and Ross, we're trying to promote Irish MMA, and then like really the governing bodies are not helping at all. But like Ross, to get that result as well, we couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Also, you have to put into perspective. Ireland only brought home. I don't want to say only brought home, but Ireland brought home 7 medals, and those 2 lads cleared out the Russians and the Ukrainians. I think Russia and Ukraine had 17 gold medals each, and there was only 45 gold medals up for grabs. They nabbed about 34 of them.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show how high level they were, and the lads cleared out the guys in that division.
Here's a better one for you. I don't know if you're 100%. You're right, and I don't know if you know this or not, but the Ukraine had 100 or 115 fighters. Ireland brought 28. Russia had 100 fighters.
Jeez, you almost shouldn't be allowed to bring that many fighters. I think it's actually but it's actually unfair. There should be a quota to each country, and then like you can only bring a certain amount. It would make it more fair for the smaller countries to.
But you know what? Like, say we went in and we cleared out the medal. We won the medal count and all that type of stuff. I don't think that the coaches and the athletes would have the same hunger that they have, like, to get better and then improve and build on, like, say, 5th place. Like, say the coaching staff and like are unbelievable. There was a great team that were brought over there at the weekend, and everyone got on really well. Different coaches from different gyms helped out different teams and different affiliates. There was a great atmosphere. Like, I loved, coaching alongside all the different coaches and it really felt like Team Ireland. And I know that gets thrown around a bit, but it really did feel like Team Ireland. And I think that with the coaches that were talking to each other at the competition, and we picked up on a few different things, like say the Russians, the way they operate, and the Ukraine lads and the USA and that type of stuff. And like technically the Irish lads are there. It's just tightening up a few things, like as in getting them to train together regularly and working like more kind of specific tournament plans, if that makes sense. So say, for example, the Russians had a great kind of simple style. So it was no headshots for the youths. So what the Russians would do, and most of the kind of Eastern European companies or countries, especially the Russians, they would get the young lads to think that they're going to strike. So they come out, they throw a few kicks, throw a few punches. And then as soon as you think you're in a striking battle, they double leg you. They'd hold you down in guard or butterfly guard, some type of guard. They'd hold you there for a minute or two. They'd pass the side control, and their goal would be to get to the mount for either an arm bar or a triangle. And that's all they did. Like, no, I don't want to say that's all they did, but that was mostly the way the game plan looked for the Russians, and it worked. They were looking to win the tournament rather than just go in and just fight.
No, definitely, and I do think I did watch quite a few of the fights. Some real standout performances as well. Like I saw Ben Harding, I think his surname's Harding. He was fighting, and I thought he was very hard done by in his semi-final. I actually thought he won the fight. I was like, oh, that's Ireland in the final. When I watched that fight, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. And then I think it was Fufu, like absolutely like the bollocks out of some fella. Like he literally like he kicked him, and then I know him and his brother. I struggle to tell which one's which, but I know they like run ultra marathons.
Fufu was the taller one.
Yeah. And
young lads, really nice young lads.
And he was kicking the legs off your man, and your man, you could actually see he was getting more tired as he was getting the legs kicked off, and I was like, it's game over for you, bro. Like he could do that for the next hour if he wanted him to.
100%.
So like there was some great performances. It was great to see us put on such a strong showing, and fair play to all the coaches who went over there and gave their time and effort, and then obviously fair play to Conor McGregor as well for helping fund the
lads out and everything. Yeah, it was unreal, and I honestly think that like within the next year, 2 years, or whatever the number is, like you're just going to see it a different level in our Irish MMA. Not that the level has always been great in Irish MMA. Like these young lads are coming through with like say coaches that are like maybe black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Maybe like UFC experience or just experience on big shows. So the young lads are only getting better coaching than what we got 10 plus years ago. We had great coaching, say 10 years ago, but with all the experience and all the different tournaments and fights that have gone on in the last 10 years, these young lads are getting that. They're getting well looked after with good strength and conditioning, good, like everything's getting looked after. Do you know what I mean? And I honestly think like within the next year or so, you're going to see like I think next year will be even bigger for them, but I think in the next few years it's going to be huge for Irish MMA.
Yeah.
I think it's on the upswing.
It definitely is.
I definitely have one last question, just based on the youth level. Obviously, there's no head strikes in it, right? Do you think that actually favors the Russians and the Eastern Europeans who grow up doing Sambo and like it's like almost embedded into them, as opposed to Irish people are actually more brought up traditionally with a boxing background more than anything? So like the lack of striking definitely probably favors the Russians, and that almost shows how much Ireland has come on from a mixed martial arts point of view.
Yeah, so I agree with you 100%, right? And there's two things that I want to say. Like, say the IMAF tournament, whether it's like for the youths, juniors, or adults, favors like wrestling. So because there's short rounds in the amateur game, especially the Russians and that. And the reason I'd say that is one, the scoring system for IMAF, especially for the youths anyway at the weekend, is it favors like submission attempts, or maybe like if you come close to finishing the fight over positional control. Now, if you look at the UFC and that, like sometimes it can be scored the other way. So if I held you down for, I don't know, let's say 2 minutes or whatever, and then you threw up a triangle and it was fairly close, and then we were up in the feet for the last 60 seconds, it could like sway towards the person that was controlling the position. But IMAF, what they do is to make it like technically better and obviously more exciting and try to stop people just holding someone down. They score submission attempts, like legitimate submission attempts. So having a dangerous, like say a triangle or an armbar or something like that, over you just holding me inside control for a minute or something like that. I lost my trait. Oh yeah, we were saying that like Irish lads, like they kind of like to strike or whatever. So, but there's great grapplers. But what I would say is it's a tournament, not a fight. If you go into IMAF and just say, for example, you 4 or 5 fights in the day, if you're doing youths, or if you 4 or 5 fights in a week, if you're doing adults, you're wearing the sock shin pads. You know, the sock ones. There's not much padding to them. And if you get into a kicking battle, like I seen this in Romania a couple of years ago, and an absolute stand-up war, the next morning you have to wake up at 6 o'clock, weigh in at like, 7 a.m. or whatever it might be, and you have to fight again that day. And if you're looking to win the tournament and not just show up for a fight, you're going to have to like inflict as much damage as you can and not take as much damage. So you want to look at it as a tournament rather than a fight on a Saturday night, say Clan Wars or one of these shows, Cage Legacy or something like that.
No one told Palahan that, Baz, did they?
I was thinking they're going to have to bring back some of these Pride lads and take them into a room and be like, right, lads, this is how we do it. But well, we obviously have to move on to what you're doing this weekend, Kieran. But before we wrap the past weekend up, what was the greatest thing that you witnessed there? Obviously, there was a gold medal brought home, but like, what was the greatest thing? Like, whether it be like training different lads, or the camaraderie, or what was the one thing that you took away from that trip, or maybe everyone took away together and was like, geez, I can't wait to do this again?
Well, I have like 2 kind of main stories, you know what I mean, like say that, or what I kind of took away from it. One was just coaching like alongside like all the different coaches there. You know, Andy Ryan is great, like what he does. He's like kind of like the father nearly of the Irish team. He's very good at rallying the troops and getting everyone together, and giving people like a kick up the arse when they need it and a pat on the back when they need it as well. So very good.
Dad jokes keep them going as well.
All the dad jokes and all that type of stuff. But he's very good, and he rallies up the troops and everything else. And I think like everyone else had their individual part. You have Danny Nealon, and you have like say Jason McCabe up north, and Jerry from MMA, and there's loads of coaches that I'm forgetting loads of coaches anyway, right? So like coaching along Sergey and all these lads, so coaching alongside them and just seeing the way they approach it and look after their fighters was very good, and it was very Team Ireland based. But a personal story I have, and this is a story I told Andy Ryan and a couple of lads. So like I said, Jordan is very good. He went in and he basically out grappled like the grapplers and the wrestlers. Now his wrestling looked like, it was unreal. It was like something like you'd see Khabib do, as in he hit beautiful outside trips and inside trips and blast double legs, and he was just like, he just went through the gears when he went on the ground. It was beautiful to see. So he's training with me 4 years, and he's one of the most coachable young lads that I've ever coached. And I have loads of good young lads that are very coachable as well, and they're like him and they're coming through. But a little kind of personal story, we were getting ready to go into the semi-finals, and like say, anytime he won a fight, I would try bring him back down. So I'd let him have like say 4 or 5 minutes of being like buzzing after the fight and everything else. And I'd say, right, heart rate down. We need to recover. We need to refuel. This is a tournament, because you can get amped up and then feel that the fight is the tournament, whereas you'd have 4 or 5 fights. So long story short, we were sitting down in the warm-up area, and I sent one of the young lads off, Bernie Ward, to get some fuel from. So Haribo sweets, like say your fruit and your Gatorade and your water and that. So you just want to get like sugar and carbs and everything into it. You know what I mean? So I was trying to relax him. He was resting on a gear bag. I was resting on a gear bag, and it was fairly quiet. It was just the two of us in a warm-up area. And I told him to eat a banana, and I told him to drink some Gatorade, and then I told him to eat an apple. So he was drinking the Gatorade, he ate the banana, and basically I could hear him crunching on a big apple. And I turned around and I said to him, "Do you like that apple, Jordan? Is that a nice apple?" Or whatever. He said, he didn't even look at me. He said, "Kieran, I don't even like apples. The only reason I'm eating this is because you told me to eat it." Do you know what I mean? That sums up his mentality. If I told him to jump through a wall or run through fire, he would. There's no second guessing or question anything. He literally ate something that he doesn't even like. Do you know what I mean? But he only ate it because he trusts in his coach and his team and his environment, and he believed that was going to help him, add to his performance and help him, do well in the tournament. So like little stories like that were, and there was loads of little things like that went on. Even like we had another little story. It was like I noticed on the second day some of the Irish fighters, the younger Irish fighters, were a little bit deflated. Not all of them, some of them. Like say when they were getting called to fights, they'd look a little bit kind of, their posture would be down, their head would be down, and that type of stuff. But I noticed some of the lads from the Ukraine and Russia and that, to be very like stoic and good posture and holding out the flag and that. So I said to my lads when we left the room that morning, I said to them, keep your chin up, keep your chest, your chest out, stand tall, stand pride, or stand proud. You're from Ireland, you know what I mean? You're as good as any of these nations. And when we go down here, I want you to have the hunter's mentality, not the praise mentality. We're going to hunt today. And that was the mentality of the whole day for my lads and any lads that I was looking after. So it was the hunter's mentality over the praise mentality. And I feel that helped like my lads and me personally as a coach on the third day. So little stories like that. There's loads of little ones, you know what I mean? So, but very proud of them, and just I'm very proud to be a part of it and help out any way I can.
Baz, you feel the hairs rising on the back of your neck as Kieran's giving the speech to the lads?
Well, it was real, like you could tell he was in charge of Team Ireland, and then he's like, if this doesn't work, I'll bring the apple out later. But come here, Kieran, anyone else is like, I'm sure a lot of the students are going to be tuning in now, listening, just being like, is there anything you want to say to them overall, or something that could potentially be on Team Ireland in the future, or like what they should like focus on and like in trying to get onto the teams in future? Maybe some sort of hint.
Honestly, the biggest thing to focus on if you're trying to get like on the Irish team or trying to do anything, trying to fight, trying to compete at grappling or whatever it is just show up every day. Do the boring stuff every single day. Like obviously you're going to have a long-term goal, but what will determine if you reach that goal or not is if you show up in the gym every single day and you outwork the hardest worker in the gym or the hardest worker in the room. That's what determines if you're going to make the Irish team or if you're going to get on, I don't know, Polaris or get to UFC or whatever else. You just have to do the boring stuff every single day. Like it's boring. You set your alarm for the same time every morning. You have the same breakfast every day. You have the same routine. You take your supplements. You go to the gym. You recover. You go to the gym. You watch fights. You watch matches, and you just repeat it. And then and that's called like the compound effect. So if you do that like every day over time for 5 or 10 years, you'll get. I'm not going to put a number on it, but that's the number that. For me, that's the way it's kind of felt for me with grappling and that type of stuff. If you do the small stuff every day, like that's the compound effect, and then over 5-10 years, that's going to pay off, and then you're going to get to where you want to go. You can't fake it. You just have to do it every day. It has to be a burning desire. This is what I tell my young lads. Like I've met a lot of people over the years, just because I've been doing this a while, who will tell you everything that like they'll tell you, they'll say all the right things. But when it comes to like, I have young lads, literally if their house was on fire, they would be in the gym that day. You know what I mean? And then I'd have a young lad, like say, that wouldn't go to training because, I don't know, he wants to go walk his dog. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the same young lad that wants to walk his dog would tell me that he wants to make the Irish team. Whereas the other guy that, if the house was on fire, would literally, I have to kick him out of the gym. And I've loads of young lads like that. So you have to have a burning desire. If it's not your every waking thought, then, you know what I mean? You can be a hobbyist in that, but like if you try fake it and say, for example, you do make it on the Irish team and you haven't put in the work, you're going to be standing in front of, I'm just going to use Russia as an example, some Russian or something that's all in. You know what I mean? So you have to be all in with anything you do.
Well, I suppose, Baz, that's just like us with the podcast. Like, hey, do you want to be the best MMA podcast in the world? But you have to do a podcast every week to start off with. Otherwise, you can't reach those levels. Yeah. let's get into this weekend, August 7th, Polaris. You represent Team UK and Ireland against Team USA. Tell us about the format that is going to take place in, and tell us what people are looking forward to this weekend.
Yeah, so it's a great show, Polaris. It's going to be live on UFC Fight Pass Saturday night. Basically, it's a new format. They've done like 2 events. They've done a no-gi one. I was a part of that. That was UK and Ireland versus the rest of Europe. And then they did the same teams, but in a gi format. And I didn't take part in that one. So this one, we're taking on Team America. The format is going to be kind of like a football match, where it's going to be 40 minutes each half. And then like it's a 5-minute running clock. So say, for example, I stand up. I could be competing against anyone from the USA. I don't know who it's going to be on the night, and I'll have a few matches on the night. So I could stand up and someone else is going to stand across the mat from me. We'll slap hands, bump fists, and then we're going to try to submit each other in 5 minutes. If the two of us do not submit each other, it's declared a draw and we go off, and neither team gets a point.
Yeah.
If I submit a smaller lad or someone the same size, my team gets 1 point. But if a smaller lad submits a bigger lad, their team will get 2 points. Now, let's say I the same match, I stand up and I'm going to take on someone from America, and I submit him in 2 minutes. The remaining 3 minutes is going to be still on the clock. Does that make sense? So you have a 40-minute running clock. I have a 5-minute time period to try get submission. If I don't get submission, I'm out until we do a full rotation of the 8-man team, and then I'm back on.
Kieran,
so that's the way it works.
You might tap me out now, but it says there's 3 points for a lower weight class submitting a higher weight class.
Okay, they must have changed it because it was 2 on the last one, so maybe they've changed it around.
I'll edit that out. I'll edit that out.
That's like no, they might have changed it, because I've heard that like the last time they did 40 minutes, and I read from a different jiu-jitsu website. It was actually yesterday, called Attack the Back, and they were saying it was a 40-minute time period. But I've heard them say that they might like make the each half longer. So basically,
it's because I was looking at the rules on bjje.com here, and I saw it's actually it's more complicated than people would think. So that's why we had to get you on ahead of this week and to explain it as well.
Well, you got the wrong lad on.
We totally got the wrong lad on.
And Kieran, I don't know where I read, and like I don't know if I can give out this information, but I read you're 90 kilos. I don't know what you're going to weigh for this. Will you be one of the heavier guys on the team?
Yeah, so the way they kind of make sure that you don't have like just say 820 kilo lads is basically they have you have 4 under 75 kilo grapplers, and then you have 4 90 to 95 kilo grapplers. So I'm in the 90 to 95 kilo bracket, and I'm probably going to weigh around 92 or 93 on the night. So that's where I'm at now.
And then Kieran, obviously, for anyone who's never seen you grapple before, you're a bit of a leg lock specialist. You like to go for people's feet. Is that what we expect to see come Saturday night?
I have a foot fetish. Look, I know how to do leg locks, but I know how to do everything. For me, I said this recently on a different chat. The leg locks for me were always the easiest route to victory. Now, like say on Saturday night, they're all the USA team are like all legit black belts. They've been competing years as world champions on the team, and the who's who of grappling from America. I have a nice little system in place where if I don't get leg locks, I'm going to be able to go on attack 2 and 3, say from a certain position. I don't want to give too much away or whatever. So I've been working. You're going to see something a little bit different. I'm obviously going to be hunting the legs, but I'm going to be attacking all limbs, all arms, legs, neck, whatever I can get, but I feel that this is the best version of me physically, mentally, and technically. So if the stars align on the night, I believe I'm going to be, should be a great night and a good performance for me. So.
And just to wrap things up, I know you talked about the prey and hunter mentality. Is there any one particular person on the US team you'd love to hunt?
All of them, honestly. And I'm not okay, right. There's certain lads there that have like big names in jiu-jitsu and that. I don't really like calling out people or anything like that, but like I honestly, I'd love to submit all of them. And like it's in my mind.
We love you to submit them all as well.
We'll be watching like it's good.
Yeah. Look, they're all legit. They're all serious. This is going to be my biggest test as a grappler. These are the lads that like I've never put them up in a pedal stool or anything like that, but these are the lads that have been in the sport and obviously the American media and that, like, there's a lot of attention and eyes on the American media. So these lads have been pushed on social media and everything else, over the years and that. So for me, I have everything to gain and nothing to lose. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to give them hell. And I feel that when they get to feel, what way I feel on the mat, they're going to be in for a shock. So if they underestimate me, that's great. But I honestly think that I'm going to get the best version of them and they're going to get the best version of me. So may the best man win. And I'm very grateful to be able to compete at this level. I've obviously earned it. I've put in the work for years now. But I'm very grateful to be able to compete now again after COVID and everything else. I haven't competed since October. I've been doing a lot of coaching and a lot of training. But I'm just excited to be able to put like my team SBG Tullamore on the map, my town on the map, and Irish Jiu-Jitsu, play my part in promoting Irish Jiu-Jitsu for the next generation coming through after us. So it's going to be a great format. Tune in to see me get a load of submissions, or tune in to get me or see me get submitted. But either way, it's going to be a good night.
I love it, Basmo. Either way, tune in. Yeah, and as you were saying, Kieran, Jiu-Jitsu is really, really hotting up, especially with the disbanding of John Danaher's squad. People are really interested to see who's going to be the next Jiu-Jitsu superstar. And who knows, you could see it at Polaris Squads on August 7th, UFC Fight Pass. Don't miss it. Basmo, anything left to say?
I just wanted to ask one thing. What two jiu-jitsu players are you looking forward to seeing going head to head in there as well? Just for people, like, obviously you're going to have to take a break and watch, like, what for the people tuning in, obviously you're going to want to watch yourself, but what's sort of matchups should people definitely not miss this Saturday on for UFC Fight Pass?
Me and Boogeyman is going to be an exciting matchup. So I believe that matchup will happen. I think that'll be a very, very exciting matchup. I think it'll be an interesting clash of styles. Darragh O'Connell from Ireland, great Irish grappler, one of the pioneers of Irish Jiu-Jitsu and everything else. He's a top competitor in that. So Darragh is always exciting in that. I'm sure he'll look to bring his A game and look for submissions and that type of stuff. It's such a funny format because there's so many different kind of like dynamics and different types of body types and games that can happen on the night. But it's going to be a great event. It's one of those events where you kind of get invested in it because, especially if you know the competitors competing in that, because it's not just a jiu-jitsu match. They're keeping score. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so it's
it's a team event. So
it's a team event, and it's a great event to compete on as well. I loved competing on the last one because I have 7 of some of Europe's best black belts, like basically coaching me and cornering me, and you want your team to do well. Like I want Team Ireland and UK to win. I want to see them win because I'm a magpie and I love shiny stuff and I want to bring a trophy back to the gym. But 2, I just want to see everyone do well on my team. Like if I do anything, I'm all in on it, and I want Team Ireland and UK to go in. And we're probably being wrote off in the American. Like the Americans' eyes a small bit, say the audience now, because like I said, with social media and all the attention that the American media get, or the athletes from the American media get, like these lads are basically put up in a pedestal and that. But we know how to grapple. We've been grappling for years. So it's our time to go in and put Irish Jiu-Jitsu and UK Jiu-Jitsu on the map and show these Americans what we're all about. We respect them, but we don't fear them.
There you have it, Team America. Doubt them at your peril. Guys, thanks a million for watching this podcast with Kieran Davern. Kieran, thank you so much for your time. If you did get a chance to watch this podcast, make sure to give it a like. Make sure to give it a comment that underneath. Make sure to subscribe. And as always, stay energized.
Energized show, up the Irish. Been sussing you guys a couple of times. I've seen a couple of clips. I think you've done some interviews with Dylan Moran and that I saw. So keep going, keep up the good work, guys.